For this film, I asked a couple people a series of questions about common controversial topics that unfortunately exist in our world today. Their responses are not scripted, nor are they altered. Please enjoy. Do you think racism is an issue today?
I think people pretend like it's not because everyone's given an equal opportunity, but then like in jobs, people are still racist, and if a white person and a black person are equally qualified, they give it to the white person instead.
Well, I'd say definitely it is an issue because it's always on the news. You know, everybody's always making a big deal. Black Lives Matter, Chinese Lives Matter. It's always another race that is trying to get rights and, you know.
No, I don't think so. I mean, people complain about it, but it's not like, I don't think it's an issue. I think there's racist people in the world, but not an issue like it was before in history, I guess.
Absolutely. Why? Because there's studies out there that show that the way people are paid, like the white male gets paid the most, followed by the black male, followed by a white female, followed by a black female. And I know when I worked in corporate America, I got paid less for the same position of my white male counterparts. So based on experience, yeah.
Yes, because it depends on which areas, but there's definitely racism on social media, comments on like social media items. I don't know.
Oh, you're good.
Well, if you just look at the news and what's going on, by experience also, what other people tell me, what's going on. Also, like I said, in the news, in the papers, in the articles, it's here.
I do in general terms. I don't think that it's necessarily as bad as it used to be, but I also think that it gets passed down through generations. So I think that it still does affect today's society, yes.
What I mostly see is like people think it's like not that serious, but it kind of is, so I don't know.
It happens like every day. I mean, I've seen it at Tommy at my work, so like, yeah, I think it is.
I think although we have a much more diverse population than we did, say, when I was born many moons ago, I think it was much more rampant back then in the 60s and 70s than it is today. But I still think there is racism today, much less than there was previously.
Why? Right? It's a very big issue. I think we're more divided than ever, but yet you're not. I think it's a big issue because now we talk about it. We used to hide it. We used to be like, oh, if you don't like certain type of race, you would not talk about it. And now with the Trump administration, I think that it's out there, and that's the first step, accepting that there's a problem. And I think one of the few tiny 1% things that they did right in this administration is to, bring that up. Not them, us. So I think now that we talk about it, if we accept we have a problem, that's the first step.
We have people in this country that are still stuck in the past and they don't want to move forward.
Racism has always been an issue, even if it's not an issue like where we are currently, it's still an issue. Like, okay. Racism isn't fine. If you agree with racism, then you would say yes, but if you don't, then you're going to say no.
Is our society growing to be more or less racist? Explain.
Less. I mean, people are like, wouldn't they be over that by now? And I don't think, racism is that common anymore. General. I mean, I'm sure if you try your best to find a racist person, you can probably find someone.
That's a hard question because it might seem like less, but I don't know, sometimes it kind of seems like the same. I don't know about more, but yeah.
Probably less, but we're getting more, and then we'll probably get less. So it's gonna always be a back and forth thing, I think.
And why do you say that?
Because right now, it seems like race is, a topic out there. Like, I notice it more now than I did when I was younger. But I think, it'll change again too.
I think it's going to be less racist, at least the people around me that are having children. Same thing with the Trump administration. I know you probably were a tiny baby 4 years ago, 3 years ago, but I feel like the first step that I felt I had control over was over my children and how they would treat the world around them. So when Trump won, I was like, well, I cannot control that, but I can control how my children behave around people. So I taught them respect. I taught them everybody deserves love, no matter sexuality, race, if you're brown, white, purple, yellow. Hey, you deserve love and respect. So
imagine less, just because throughout history we've been less and less towards racism, like more equality and whatnot. So
I think it's growing to be less racist, but there will always be racism in our society and people who still believe it, even though the majority will not.
I would definitely say less, for sure. However, there are closet racists as well that, like, I've experienced people that are, in general terms, are racist towards, like, let's say black people, but when they are around black people, they're not racist at all. However, when they're not around black people, they say a lot of racial things. But I would say I encounter less people that are racist than I used to in the past.
Unfortunately, I think it's more racist, and I think that's a media issue. I think the media only portrays certain things. They don't talk about the white kid that blows up the school. They'd rather talk about black kids that rob places.
Yes and no. In some ways, yes. I mean, it's not as noticeable as it was back then, but I think it's still like a thing. I think it's becoming a little bit lesser, but it's still there. Like, it's very prominent.
I thought it was getting to be less, but it seemed like it's gotten worse in the last few years.
Gotcha. Why do you think that?
It's just how people are treated now. It seems like people was getting better, but just me being from the South, growing up in the South, even going back to my hometown now, where people was cordial, of other colors. Now people are more distant. I can give an example. Growing up, we used to have this parade, and I went to a predominantly black school, and we was able to walk. Our parade went through the whole town, homecoming parade.
right.
Last year, they told us we're not allowed to come all the way through because it may block traffic and all that stuff. We never had an issue with that, but I feel like because of what's going on, people feeling more comfortable with racism again.
Right.
They tried to block our parade. They asked us if we can go on the back street of, instead of marching down Main Street, in a very small town. So that, being with that experience, you can't help but think that, okay, this gotta be racism. You know, because now we was going on the Main Street, now you're saying walk on the back street. It reminds me of when I was little.
It's going to be less.
Yeah.
You see a lot of mixed race families, like racism isn't as bad. Does it exist? Yes, but it's not as bad as it is today.
I think, well, like I said, it used to, I feel, used to be much more racist than it is now. So I'd have to say at least less racist.
I think more racist. Like, I think my personal experience with Trump now being in office, I remember when he started running, I definitely experienced more racism moving out here, I experienced it in a way where some of my close friends were racist towards me, and I had no idea until all of that. I don't know.
Has women's rights been justified? Explain how it has or has not.
Whew. That's a tough one. I think their rights are well within the limits that they should be. I think in the past it hasn't been so much. I think as ladies, as far as education, I think there wasn't as many being educated as there was men. Now that there's being more educated, I think pay scales, rights as far as leadership positions, I think it's getting there.
Women are still treated unfairly. I think, just working in corporate world and working in the industry, women have to work harder to prove themselves. From my understanding, I don't have knowledge of, but from my understanding, they don't get as paid as much according to statistics.
Right.
So women are still challenged.
I think it has, because we've been given a lot more opportunities in life, even though we'll still never be truly equal, because people always think that women are not as great, whether that be true or not.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're equal to males, so I mean.
Women rule. I mean, they've been suppressed, I think, and they've always been the backbone, giving the light to the men, and now it's okay for women to have that spotlight, and they are capable.
I think so. I think we're still fighting for equal pay. I know we still get paid, like I was saying in the first question, we still get paid less than men, but we're on the right track.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It honestly depends on the person and how that person was raised and things like that. I feel like some people would say no on that, and some people say yes. I'm undecided.
I would say that it's been justified for sure. Obviously, women are equal to men in today's society for the most part. Some people don't agree with that, but as you see, there are women CEOs, there are women police officers, women pretty much everything nowadays. So I would say that it's come a long way.
No, I don't think they've been justified. I think we live in an oppressing society since forever, just by someone else trying to make decisions for us, especially not women related. 100% of the laws that are made are by men. Men don't know what it is to have a child. They don't know what it is to go through labor. They don't know how it feels to get paid next to nothing compared to men, white men specifically. And they don't know what it is to fight every day. They don't know anything. There's so much that they don't know because they don't live it. They don't go through it. Even any man, even if it's your spouse, even if he tries to understand you, to live with you, to go through it with you, he's never gonna be a man. He's never gonna know what it is to walk through a parking lot by yourself being afraid. It gets to the simplest, most basic things.
I mean, you see women in the same position that you see men. It's not like women can't get the same position as men.
The facade of it has, but with the whole thing with the women can't choose to have abortions or whatever, I'm not saying that I'm pro whatever. I just don't care. It's your body, do whatever you want with it. But the fact that some women were going to prison for trying to have an abortion, I think that's insane.
No, it hasn't, because women still get treated less than men. They still get paid less than men. I don't know. I personally, whenever I go out, men whistle, or they're like, oh, when are you gonna do something for me? Or some guys that I've talked to in the past are like, oh, well, when are you gonna come over and do this for me? It's no, we're equal. I think we should all be equal, even though some have more degrees, some have less. We're all equal as humans.
It has in a way because women have more rights and they own businesses. There's some that still don't have that equal pay, but I think for the most part women are very independent and they're showing that.
Do you think that women are mistreated more often than men?
Yes.
Explain.
Yes. 100%.
100%?
Yeah.
All right.
because again, white men still rule the country and they just treat us as though we're not as intelligent.
In general, yeah, for sure. Just because typically with I'm a believer in gender roles to a certain extent, not necessarily in every regard, but there definitely are gender roles in today's society. Like certain things aren't acceptable for men to do, but for women it is, or for women to do, but for men it is, like sleeping around. Like if a guy does that, that's considered cool, but if a girl does it, it's considered a bad thing. So I would say, just like if you look at it in that term, yeah, women definitely face a lot more challenges and abuse than men, for sure.
As of right now, with all the feminists, I think men are the ones being mistreated. I think because they're trying to take away the masculinity of men. So.
Okay.
Yes. I've read a whole bunch of articles and studies where they're like, people in the workforce would switch names. Like a man would have a woman's email address and a woman would have a man's email address. And the woman automatically got treated so much better while the man got treated way worse and didn't have much respect.
You know, as far as just relationships, I think, I don't know. That's a tough one. I think, you know, if you, as far as like my wife and I got the greatest wife in the world, I think, but we meshed well together, and I don't think all couples do that, so it leads to have a lot of issues in that regard. Boy, I don't know what else to say about that one. That's a tough one. That's a tough question.
We do get mistreated more. I feel that it's mostly safety. We don't feel safe anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You go out to a club.
No, I don't.
No. What I'm saying, like you go out to a club, you get touched. We don't touch men. We're not touching things. We get touched. We get talked at. We get talked down at. In a job interview, we get asked if our children will be in the way of our work. Where men, they don't get asked that. Things like that. Like if you start getting back to the simplest tasks and think that anything is gonna stop us, we don't stop at anything. I think that if we were to be treated equally and mistreated less, we would be capable of doing a lot of things. It's just that we never get a chance. So yes, we do get mistreated a lot for a lot of reasons. And mainly that not us feeling safe. Probably 90% of the time when we're out.
No, I think that's false. Every day, well, my job I've worked, like it's the same pay for everyone. So I mean, I don't see how people are mistreated, or at least I haven't seen it. So
I think so, because of society and because of past history. Men are considered the more dominant, and so unfortunately a lot of people take advantage of that, and they take heed to that, but a person should be judged on their ability and how well they perform their job.
That's a hard one for me because you want to say yes, that they have been, ignore that background, but yes, however, men may be just as mistreated, you just don't hear about it as much. They don't, it's not an issue for them to be mistreated maybe, because in their case they'd be like, yeah, whatever. They're just taking things, they don't see things the same way that maybe we are, and maybe because women have not had the position that men have had, when they're mistreated, then it's, you know, it's talked about more when, you know, because guys have been at a higher position. If they've been mistreated, it's sort of like, you know, they don't even think about it.
Whenever you hear of people being kidnapped, more often than not, it's women. And when people get abused at parties, it's mostly women. And even though it does happen to men, it's just more women.
Do I think? I mean, no. I don't think so.
And why?
Why? I mean, unless you show me a statistic that would show that, I don't believe so. I would treat everyone the same way, but I guess everyone could be different and the scenarios could be different, but that's my answer.
I feel like to me, women are looked more as like toys, I should say. Like, can we use our own experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like my experience, just going out in general, men think it's okay that they can whistle, that they can do anything. They think it's okay they could talk to certain people, like to women, in a degrading way, when no, like, you don't know me, like, you don't have the right to touch me, you don't have the right to talk to me that way.
I don't know, I mean, women can be abusive also, but I don't know, I feel like you see more domestic abuse against women than men. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen towards men, because it does.
Gotcha. Do you think that men use women for their own good? And explain.
You think men what?
Use women for their own good. Explain.
Well, I mean, you mean like being a pimp? Things like that? Is that...
I mean...
Men use women for everything, all right? We get used and abused. You want examples? Pimp is an example. So what, even like as a sexual worker, you can't just do it yourself. Let's say that you love it, that you were born to do that. Here comes a man and tells you, oh, guess what? You can't do it yourself. You're gonna give me 20% and I'll handle your career, right? Yeah. Like, we cannot even do that in peace, dude. So, you know, there's, yes, like we you know, like, we only work to have children, to have families, and that's it. We come to work and then they're like, oh, the question that I get a lot is, who's with the kids? Like, you don't ask my husband that when he goes to work in the mornings. Who's with the, why? Because you're assuming they're with me. So, yeah, I mean, we get used for a lot of purposes.
I don't think so, because I think men just try to ignore women, like, in their field, or just kind of pretend like they don't exist more, instead of using them to get farther in life.
Okay, but do you think they use them for like their own personal good, like their personal needs, personal health?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, like they'll pretend to be weak when they're sick to have women nurse them back to health.
It depends. It depends on what kind of man it is. If it's a sexist man who lives in that old-fashioned, but then I believe there's some men that do value women and respect them. I think times are changing. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about sex.
Well, I think that, you know, of course, you know, me being married, I use my wife because she's my helpmate. Mm-hmm. So there are some things that she's able to do. She's able to accomplish that I can't. Some things she can get done I can't, even with the kids. So I use it to that advantage, but me, I don't use it to be using her. I use it for our advantage. But I know some guys is the opposite. They do try to take advantage of women and use them.
Yeah, I think it's just the character of the person that would call that into question. I mean, I think somebody would treat a woman in a way that they shouldn't be treated. It just has bad character, and I would try to stay away from that person.
No, I think that's false as well. I think it's all about, you know, I don't know how they would use them for their own good in general anyway. I don't know, it's just decisions that we make from both genders. Like, it's not it's not justified.
I guess, I don't know, men are kind of dumb. So who knows, they could be too dumb for that, you know.
Of course. I think everybody uses everyone for their own good. That's just nature, you know. You find the best things, about someone, and you use that.
Yes, because men aren't fulfilled with what they have, so they want other fulfillment, but sadly they go and fulfill their ways with women in ways that they shouldn't.
Sometimes I think it depends. Again, it depends on the person. I think sometimes.
No.
At all.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I guess there can be situations of both ways. Like, women could use men for their own good. It goes both ways. I mean, I don't think so, though.
Some do, some don't. I would say that I don't, but I've met a lot of guys that do. I mean, sexually wouldn't be the number one deal. And then I've also met guys that use women for money, but at the same time, there's women that do the same to men. So I'd say that's kind of equal.
Some people believe that same-sex marriage is a bad thing. Would you say that in this day and age that they're wrong, or would you agree, and why?
Well, in this day and age, is to each his own. You know, it depends on, if based on how I was raised, biblically, if you look at it at a biblical point and the way the Bible is written, because I'm a Christian.
Right.
But for me, personally, it's to each his own, and if two people like each other, that's them. They don't bother me, I don't bother them. That's, I don't think somebody should be treated unfairly or because of their agenda. But I don't think a person, because their sex preference, should have a more special privilege because of sex preference. But I do believe in equal rights and civil rights and that stuff.
I wouldn't agree with it, but I mean, that's not for me to intervene, yes. So it doesn't bother me at all. So that's just a religious standpoint. So.
Again, it depends on the person, but there's no problem with that for me. I mean, love is love, so.
I think it's a great thing for the people who are in it, because they need that, and it's it would be horrible to not be able to live that way if that was your true being, right? But I think it's like the whole marriage thing, there's almost like no point to it nowadays, because like back a long time ago, when the man was working, the woman was at home, there was like a family unit and there was a purpose for people to be married. They, that's how they functioned, right? But now women's at work, the men's at work, or, there's, and women can take care of themselves. They don't really need that unit anymore. They can be independent, and so maybe that doesn't really answer the question to the gay part of it. But when you ask that question, I'm just thinking of the whole, with all the changes that we accept, it has changed the necessity of marriage. I don't know. And so that part of it, I feel, is kind of sad. I don't know that it's bad. It's just sad.
I would say that I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Some people agree with it and some people don't. Most of the people that don't cite the Bible, which it's open for interpretation. I feel like it's not my preference, but if somebody wants to do that, they can do it.
Well, I believe everyone has the choice to live the life they want to live. I personally, I'm not gay, so it doesn't affect me, but if that's how they want to live their life, that's all that matters. They have that choice to do that.
I think same-sex marriage is fine. I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I don't see why anyone else would have an issue with it. It's not like it affects them. So, I mean...
Oh, they're wrong. Especially with kids that need to be adopted. I'd rather see a child go to a house with 2 dads or 2 moms than stay in foster care forever. I think you love who you love.
No, I think same-sex marriage is okay. I personally believe everyone should love who they should love. I have friends, majority of my friends are gay, lesbian, bisexual, and their relationships are a lot better than different different sex marriages. I personally don't see an issue with it. Love is love, and if it doesn't affect their lives, it shouldn't affect yours, because they're living the same lives.
I don't believe in same-sex marriage, but I don't believe I should judge. You know, it's something I don't believe in, but I know a lot of people who are, you know, gay, that type thing, and they're good people. So I wouldn't judge them as them being bad or anything like that. That's their thing. It's not my thing.
I agree that everybody deserves love and respect. And we all deserve to be fairly miserable in our marriages, and they deserve to live that too. I think mainly the basis of that is, so people they don't have enough information. So what it means is this: let's say I get married as an illegal alien or, undocumented person, and you get married to an American, and they give you papers, right? After a few amount of times, let's say you fell in love and they did give you this. If there is a gay couple that get married, they don't get that benefit. So that person, even you marry that person will never get papers. So you will always be afraid for your spouse to not be here at any certain moments. So, if you want to, that's just one of the examples. Like, I have had friends that is like, who do I share my 401k with? I had a friend, he died of AIDS. His husband, which was not at the time because they couldn't get married, he didn't get any benefits. His family did not agree them getting married. They didn't give him anything. How would you feel if the person that you love the most after you're gone has nothing left? So it's heartbreaking. I think that there's a lot of things that need to get changed, and a lot of things that need to, get the ball rolling with it, because you need to get with the times, dude. This is not like 1800s, It's crazy. It's crazy.
They're wrong.
And
who
why?
cares? Who cares?
Gotcha.
Honestly. 2 of my best friends, or not best friends, but 2 of my good friends, they just got engaged. So, but, he just posted a Facebook post today actually about, his family not supporting him. And I just think that's really, really sad.
I think they're wrong in today's day and age, because as long as your life choices don't harm anybody, they're pretty legal and okay. So gay marriage doesn't hurt anyone. So it's people are like, it's Gucci.
It's Gucci. Gotcha. Do you think that being part of the LGBTQ community grants you less opportunities than if you were not part of the community?
I think it probably depends on where you are. If you're in the community, if you're around the others, then you'd have more opportunities within that community, but outside of the community, you may not.
I would say maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't really see it, I guess, too much. I don't really know. That's kind of a hard, topic, because, they say they don't discriminate against, sexual orientation, but obviously some places still do, depending on, the person behind it. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to get into that one.
I think so, because like I said, majority of my friends are gay, or a good chunk of them are like part of the community, and I've gotten opportunities knocked down because I hang out around with them, which that doesn't make me, just because I'm who I am and I'm friends with them, doesn't make me one of them. Like I said, we should all be equal no matter how we are.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm not, I don't know really what they provide, you know, because since I don't really follow them, I don't know what they provide, so I wouldn't be able to make an educated answer on that.
I think so, because a lot of the people who are bosses today don't really understand it, because when they were growing up it wasn't legal, but once more younger people start to be bosses, then they'll have more opportunities.
I think it's a tricky question. I think in the past it would have been, but now it's so important that we're socially accepting of everybody and focusing on not discriminating from that. But maybe 5 years ago, I think it would have been a bad thing if you were part of the community.
Yes.
And why?
Because people are stupid. But no. Because a lot of people frown upon it, because I mean it's same-sex marriage. I don't frown upon it, but other people do, and especially in the workforce. But I also think sometimes people hire people just because they're in the LGBTQ community, which is also like, you know.
I think that's false. I think opportunities are based on attitude, personality. It's not based on, I guess, gender.
I don't think it has anything to do. I think the community is for support and love and acceptance. A lot of these kids don't get any love at home or with families, which is super sad to me. Like, I would give them so much love if they would just call me. It's just the love and support. I don't think it gives you any more or less opportunities. It's just more like a group of friends that you feel welcome in all the time.
I feel like if you're in it, you would get more. Just because it's like a growing thing, and then it shows that like you're more diverse. So I feel like, unless like the company, if it's a work thing and they're against it, then I feel like you wouldn't have a good shot. But I feel like if people are trying to be more open and accepting towards everyone, then you're gonna have a higher chance of getting in because of that reason.
I'll answer that by saying that I think that it's definitely improved to be more acceptable, for sure. At the same time, I would say that you have better treatment if you're not compared to if you are, just in general terms.
Yes and no. Like certain jobs do specifically want the LGBTQ community. But then I don't know, I think it's really popular right now, so they're accepting more. But then again, people are accepting because you get such backlash if you don't accept it.
I think it have put an impact on getting people their rights. You know, so it's a positive in a sense. I think it shouldn't take that for us as humans to know that other people should be treated like humans regardless. It shouldn't get to that point, but yes, it does play a big impact.
Overall, between racism, sexism, and oppression of gender, do you think that they have changed much since the 1900s?
No, because women are still fighting for their rights. Women are still fighting for their rights. Women are still fighting to get equal pay. Every time I go out, I have to worry if I'm gonna get kidnapped or anything like that. I have to worry if I'm gonna be okay, if I'm not gonna get roofied, things like that. I don't think it's changed at all, because we're not equal. No one is happy for each other. No one is happy in their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
And why?
As far as racism, I mean, the minorities had no rights, you know, until, you know, they were able to vote and things like that. And even when that happened, they were, you know, there was a lot of segregation and stuff like that, even though they had the ability to vote and stuff like that. So, and that's gotten better. That's a lot better, in my eyes. As far as sexism, I think it's even even gotten better, because I think women many moons ago, back then, probably were thought as second-class citizens, maybe, because they didn't have the same rights. They couldn't have the same jobs. They couldn't vote. They couldn't do a lot of things. You know, they were expected to stay at home, cook, and take care of the man and the child. But now, most women are in the workforce and doing their thing, so I think it's gotten better.
I think so, mostly because now that it's kind of being, like, all of this is being shoved in people's faces by the internet, but back then they also had, like, specific rules and things like that because most people were Catholic. But now, I mean, there's, like, so much more religions and ideas, and that people are more outspoken and they're more brave to say stuff like that, whereas back then they were like, no. But I do think, yeah.
It's changed a ton. My previous answers have shown that that's what I think, so I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
And why?
Well, I mean, if it's historically proven, like, there's people that haven't had, or I guess genders, races, they haven't had rights before in early 1900s, and I mean, look where we're at now. Like, it's 10 times better from where it was, so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because as dumb as it sounds, women are allowed to vote. We're allowed to have more, better jobs. But I think there's still a lot of issues in today's society. Still got a long ways to go.
I'm sure it has. I'm not a history person, so I don't know what it was like in, I really can't say what it was like in the 1900s, but I mean, I'm sure, stuff has changed, and I'm sure it's changed again, changed back, probably, maybe we've gone back to how it was back then, it's just a cycle, I'm sure.
I think so, yes, because in the early 1900s, racial slurs were a part of, like, everyone's vocabulary. But now, like, if you say that, people get really mad at you. And also, women can now vote. Minorities can now vote and stuff like that. So we're going towards a society that's going to be better with that.
Yes, definitely.
And why do you think
1900s? Because people were killed for being gay, and people were killed for being if they were racist against a race, that race was killed. So it was more violent back in the day and non-tolerable. Now it's becoming more tolerable.
Yes. I think we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go.
I think that we're more aware. I think that nowadays our spouses are, meaning if you're a woman, your spouse, or if, like in my case, I get treated equally. We'll do the work. We're a team at home. But no, I don't think it has changed that much. We can vote. I mean, at least we had that going for us. We can run for office. I don't know. I mean, we have had steps, but we still have a long way to go, because just thinking about it, just the generation before me, like I'm a 36-year-old woman, just my mom, she still gives dinner to dad every day. She still stayed at home. She still, does the dishes every night. Like, she never aspired to anything more. So just the generation before me still suffer through all of that. Yes, they did have rights. Yes, you can vote. Yes, there are CEOs and presidents, but it's not enough. We need more, a lot more. We're not even getting started yet, I think.
Tracking back to what I said in the first, questions, kind of seems like it has, and the facade of oh yeah, we're, trying to protect, and do these rights and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's taking too long, for one, and for two, I don't really see it being as progressed as it needs to be. So.
Yeah, definitely. Every single one of them.
What?
Every single one of them.
But why?
I mean, just people are more aware of the situations and the wrongdoing. So, sexist, women weren't able to get jobs that men were. So now it's equality. And if there's a statistic or issue where a woman or a gay person or someone of color or any scenario in any area in any part of the world, then I feel like people are gonna shine the light on that and make it right.
if you were to have kids or more kids, how would you inform them about the world today?
I do have a child, and speaking in race and gender equality and LGBT, I already do teach them to respect everyone the same, and talk to everyone and get experience with every type of person, every type of personality, background, that type of thing, because that's what he's going to be growing up with and having to form relationships with as he gets older. So
I would say it's much more difficult to live in than in my day. There are many more choices today, many more not so good choices today. It's much more simpler back then. So I think it was a much safer place back then. It's much more family orientated back then. I think it's more individualized now instead of family oriented.
I would tell them that they can be anything they want. Like, women can be doctors, men can be teachers, but people would still look at you, and like if you're a guy wanting to be a teacher, people would kind of like, or if you're a woman trying to be a doctor, that's how you can't, even though you really can.
The world isn't shit, especially where we live today. Obviously there's people in the world that are in poverty, but where we live today in the US, for one, the economy is fantastic. It's going up consistently. It's been doing that for 10 years. So I mean, if it's still doing that by the time I have kids, there's no bad to inform them about, I guess, money in the world. Technology is always consistently growing. I don't know, it's just be whoever you want to be, but I mean, just know the world is accepting, especially now. So
I would say the world is still like, I think the world is still scary. I mean, it always is and it always will be, because there's people out there that's just like no bueno. But I feel like now the world is a little bit more accepting. I mean, there's still a whole bunch of people that are just like, you can't be yourself, like they'll be something else. But I think I would say that the world is scary, but you can still be yourself. Yeah.
Just accept people, be kind, and be a good person. Don't worry about other people, what they're doing and whatnot, so you worry about yourself and, live your life the best way and to do the best for other people.
I do have children. I have 2, and I tell them it doesn't matter what color you are or how you look. It all matters what's in here. And so they don't even see color. They just say, "Oh, he's brown." That's it. They can be whoever they want to be and love who they want to love.
I just like to be real with kids, so I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and I kind of talk to them like people. And my boyfriend's sister, she likes that we talk to them. Like, she hates when people talk to them in like baby voice and stuff like that. Like, be real with them. They're, he's 3, but he can still understand things and whatever. So I just think being real and actually talk, because my parents didn't really talk about too much, and I had to learn the hard way, and it's not always fun.
I would just tell them, like, I have morals and I have beliefs, and I'll pass that on to them, and I always want them to be good individuals. I'm a Christian, so yeah, I like Christian morals, and just tell them not to be like the world, be completely different from the world.
I mean, I feel like if you actually like focus like on the things like, oh, racism, like if you don't say anything about it, I don't know if this is true, but I just feel like if you don't shine the light on it, then it's less of an issue. Like, the more you say racist, like sexist, any of those things that would be like degrading and not good for like a I don't know, society, then I feel like you're shining the light more and making it more of an issue when it doesn't need to be, unless it is an issue to begin with.
As in what aspect?
Anything, everything.
I mean, if I had my own kids, I would definitely let them know, like, hey, this is right, this is wrong. You can grow up to be who you want to be. I'm gonna be there for you no matter what, and I'm gonna be proud of you no matter what. I personally think that kids are taught how to be racist because no one is born racist. I can tell you that right now.
I would try to help them understand that they are just as strong as anybody. They can accomplish anything. They work hard, and I will let them know that growing up, you're gonna have people that treat you different because of your color or your sex preference or your sex or gender, whatever. But I will teach them to just work hard, learn to ignore stupidity and ignorance, because there are a lot of ignorant people in the world.
I try not to taint them with that. I do have 3 children. The only one that would understand would be my 9-year-old. If she was to ask me, the policy at home would be never lie. So let's say there was a shooting at a school, and usually the way that I handle it is telling them the truth. Hey, there was this crazy person, they got into the school, they're starting shooting people up. That's where you live, and you have to be careful. I think that they have cornered us as parents during this day and age to take that innocence, that little bit of innocence away. You try to keep it as intact as possible, but I feel that you need to instruct them on things that are happening right now, because they need to be aware. You can't just go to school and be like, oh, nothing's happening. This is, oh, it's all farts and rainbows. Or hearts and rainbows, not farts and rainbows. And, it's the truth policy, pretty much. I don't know. That's how I handle it at home. You teach them love and support no matter what, and you let them know what's happening. Maybe not the gory details, but they do know what's going on. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I definitely do think racism is still an issue today. You see a lot of stuff about Trump's wall and how people are threatening to deport other people, and it's just a lot of negative slang towards others, and it's not as much as it used to be, but it's still here. It's still prominent. It's still affecting people's lives, and we may not think about it like most people do, but the minorities, they experience that stuff all the time, and it's not fair for them. I do think that our society is growing to be less racist. It's still an issue, but it's not like how it was before in the 1900s. For example, especially with like slavery and everything, and that was a whole issue. But now it's a lot better. It's not perfection, but it's there. It's getting there. I believe women's rights has been justified to a certain extent. I do know a lot of people believe that not many jobs have justified that. Like women are not being paid as equal as men are, but they can vote now. They can do a lot of other things that men could do. As far as I know that the pay rates are not the same. I know some are mistreated more often than others, but I do think that it has been, if not fully, then justified quite a bit. I do think women are mistreated more often than men, and that's because you don't hear a whole lot about women raping men, and I know that they do. It does happen, but you don't hear it as often as men raping women. That's what's on the news more often than not. Unfortunately, as it is. But then you have like just a bunch of people still living in like past social standards, and abusing women for their own benefits. I do also believe that men use women for their own good. Um, I believe men use women for good things and for also bad things. I know. I have a girlfriend. I use her for happiness. I make sure she's happy too, obviously, but I get my happiness from her. I use her for good things. But then there's other people who use their relationship partners as objects or things for their benefits that may not help the other person. And I'm saying, like, unfortunately, sexually, people will use them to get their sexual pleasures when the woman doesn't want that, or like rape, an example. So yeah, the women are mistreated by men. They are being used, some cases abused even with that. I believe that the people saying that same-sex marriage is wrong, I believe that they're wrong. Who the hell cares? Let's be honest. If it doesn't affect you, then what's the big deal? Like, how are they affecting your lives? It doesn't make sense. They deserve to be happy. We all deserve to be happy. If you're happy with your relationship partner, they should be happy with their relationship partner. It doesn't make sense why they can't enjoy as much as their life as we can enjoy our lives. But the people that say that it's not right, then that's not right, you know? But that's a tricky question. I think being part of the LGBTQ community, with others within that community, will definitely help benefit you. I don't see how not being part of it wouldn't, but I mean, I could be very wrong. I don't know a whole lot about specifically that, but I think they would benefit better if they were around others like them, rather than not. I do know some people don't agree with same-sex marriage and bisexuals and gays and all that fun stuff. So they might discriminate against that, so they might not benefit with the LGBTQ community might not benefit from those kind of people, but with their kind of people, then they might benefit from that. I do believe racism and sexism and oppression of gender roles, they definitely have changed since the 1900s. Women can vote, Black people can vote. There are laws, unfortunately, still about no same-sex marriages in some states, but most states they allow that, so that there's that improvement. But it's definitely a better, easier world in those terms. It's an easier world in those terms to live in today, for sure. And if I were to have kids, I would tell them the truth. The world is still not a good place. There's still a bunch of bad things happening, and I'd let them know about that. I wouldn't let them find out from other people. I'd make sure I tell them as they're growing up that, hey, just be careful. It's tough. It's gonna get hard. It's gonna be scary. There's a lot of challenges out there, but you just gotta prepare yourself and battle through those. I paired these two images from The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison with these two questions because I felt that in The Bluest Eye that racism was prevalent throughout the story. I felt that it was a major issue as well as it is for us in today's world. Racism is a huge controversial issue that's still going around today, and so I put these two questions with these two pictures. For these next two pictures, I got them from The Husband's Stitch by Mikado. They depict of a woman wearing a ribbon around her neck, and I paired them with these two questions just because I saw that women's rights has not been fulfilled within the novel. The men treat them unequally and unfair, and it's I felt that it was these two pictures connected really well with these two questions. I use this picture to reference heartberries, and I connected it with this question just because I thought that in heartberries that the main character was misused by her significant other and used for his benefits rather than hers. These next two pictures I chose from Fun Home, and the reason why I did that is because the main character in Fun Home seemed to be part of the LGBTQ community, and with that being said, these questions are focused on that topic and how people react and deal with the LGBTQ community and same-sex marriage and everything. So these two pictures kind of help understand what's going to go on. This next picture, I have no idea what I was going to use to connect all the topics together, and I saw this one picture in one of the novels and I was like, oh, well, this is kind of funny. So it's just supposed to be a little haha moment for us. The next picture I chose from The Fire Next Time, and I did this because the question in particular was asking about what we would tell our kids about the world today. And I remember that in The Fire Next Time, the narrator was trying to tell his kid about what's going to happen, and the kid had to deal with everything and that was happening. And I remember the movie theater scene really struck out to me where the white lady pushed the kid down. So I felt like with that connection, I could have easily put this well together with the question.